Welcome back to EDLR 7312 Qualitative Research. This week we're going to talk about phenomenological research and ethnographic research. There are two different types of phenomenological research. There's a number of procedures that you need to look at when you're conducting phenomenological research. You have to determine if your research question or problem is best examined using the phenomenological approach. You also need to identify that phenomenological interest to study and be able to describe it in depth. Distinguish and specify the broad philosophical assumptions of that phenomenon you're going to be looking at. Need to understand that you're going to be collecting data from the individuals who have experienced the phenomenon by using in-depth and multiple interviews, not just individuals, but also focus groups. You're going to need to be able to generate themes from those analyses, develop textual and structural descriptions, and be able to report the essence of the phenomenon using a composite description. There are some challenges in phenomenological research. It requires the researcher to have a very structured approach when doing that research. You have to understand the broader philosophical assumptions and those abstract concepts with the phenomenon that you'll be looking at. You've also got to find individuals who've experienced that phenomenon. The researcher must also be able to bracket out their own personal feelings or experiences in your research process. That's known as researcher bias. And then you have to decide if there is a new view of that phenomenon that you're going to study. Ethnographic research really is defined as research into the shared patterns of individuals or in a culture or group. You study those shared values, their behaviors, their beliefs, and their languages that they share. It involves extensive observation of the group, immersing the researcher in the day-to-day lives of the group or culture you're studying, observing and interviewing the group members. You've also got to study the meanings of their behaviors, their language, and their interactions. There are a number of procedures when conducting ethnographic research. You first have to determine if an ethnography is the most appropriate design for studying your research problem. You got to be able to identify and locate a culture-sharing group to study and select those cultural themes, the issues or theories to study about that particular group. You have to determine what type of ethnography to use to study those concepts, gather the information in the context or the setting where the group lives or works, and you have to generate an overall cultural interpretation of the group from the analysis of their patterns across many sources of data. There are a number of challenges in ethnographic research. The researcher needs to be able to do an in-depth study and understanding of that cultural anthropology of the particular group. You've got to have extensive time to collect data, including prolonged time in the field with that group. Your work's going to have to be written in a prose or literary format, almost like a study. And you have to be careful of going native, compromising the study by becoming one of the participants. You have to be also sensitive of the participants and protecting the culture or those things that you're studying.